Ladies and gentlemen, we're with at-large Councilmember Rebecca Kaplan, who I've known for 2 years.
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's great to be with you again.
And Jason's assistant. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
How you doing?
Yeah. Rebecca, first of all, I want to go over the budget deliberations of recent weeks.
Absolutely.
And for people, we're also at we're at Lake Merritt Cafe. 614 Grand.
That's right. Here we are in another one of many wonderful Oakland local businesses where you can come get good food.
That's right.
That's certainly one of the big things going on in Oakland. We are having more of an economic boom around food, restaurants, even food production, microbrews going on in Oakland that is really phenomenal. And not that that's the only thing important in the city, but it's something that I think is really important for people to hear about because it's really incredible. And if you don't spend time here, you might not know
I quite agree.
About it.
Now, tell my viewers where we are with the budget now that's done. And I know and you know, but tell my viewers where we are.
Sure. So the City of Oakland has a June 30th deadline for adopting a budget. And this year we adopted a budget on June 30th, but it did pass and we are done and we do have a balanced budget. And part of why the budget this year was so complicated was because it was intertwined with labor negotiations. So we are facing a pretty serious economic crisis. And part of that are nationwide phenomenon. You know, sales are down all over the country, unemployment is up all over the country. So there's these issues that many large cities are grappling with. Then on top of that, in California, we've had cuts from the state level that then harm the local level. Some other states have had that also. So we have these multiple challenges we're dealing with.
Do you think people understand exactly where we're at, that how far property tax revenues have fallen over the past 2 years? Do you think they really get it?
I'm not sure because historically, property tax revenues did not ever go down.
Right.
So historically, even when you would have a downturn, what would happen is property tax revenues would stop going up. But for them to go down is really different and really unusual.
And dramatic. As AC Transit, I think, was something like an 82% drop in 1 year.
Yeah.
You know, dramatic.
Yeah.
And Oakland's the largest tax producer for the county of Alameda.
Absolutely. No, it's been really quite dramatic. And then also with the higher unemployment, you know, people having less money to spend, that also has an impact. So we're dealing with a lot of impacts. And so as we started to look at the budget, it became very clear that we were really going to have to work closely with our labor unions to contain some costs. And
you put out a proposal which I thought was really interesting and good. But are you happy with what came out of it? Because your proposal was somewhat different.
in terms of the union contracts, I'm very pleased with what came out of the union contracts, and I think we owe all of our city workers a lot of gratitude for them stepping up. And, you know, even stepping up when they didn't have an open contract in some cases. And, you know, I know there was a lot of critique from some people about should you have pushed harder and gotten more. We actually, I think, got a better deal and a better job of getting it than many other cities that are grappling with these similar issues. Some cities are going to be in court for years over what they're trying to do. Other cities closed deals that didn't really save money.
Making a deadline, because Atlanta was facing the same problem the same day. So is Wisconsin.
Exactly.
Among other cities.
And Minnesota's now closed.
Minnesota,
right? So, you know, I know it can be fashionable to say Oakland's all screwed up, and believe you me, I can tell you plenty that we are screwed up on. But this actually was a very positive outcome. I mean, we got what was called the fair share, that we want to get 9% from every union, so not just some workers contributing and not others. And we got that. And the negotiations were handled at the negotiating table, you know, rather than people making nasty cracks about each other in public. You know, we actually had negotiations at the negotiating table. We were not there. No elected officials were at the negotiating table, which was perhaps part of why they went more smoothly this time. In previous years, they've been much more heavily politicized.
Now, speaking of nasty
so we got
remarks,
the 9%. We were, and therefore, we were able to have a budget that was not as devastating to public services as it would have been. So I'm not saying we're out of the woods, I'm not saying it's easy, but the amount of cuts to core public services that we would have had to make would have been much more devastating.
Like the libraries.
To libraries, to parks, to public safety even. You know, there were really pretty bad options on the table of what would have happened if we didn't make these agreements.
Now, you voted to put the parcel tax on the ballot.
Yes.
Obviously, you think it'll pass.
Well, I didn't do the polling, but
Okay.
there is polling that said it would pass. So that wasn't my poll, but there is polling out there that said it would pass.
Let me ask the inevitable.
But actually, I want to give a caveat to that.
Sure, please.
I actually think the voters of Oakland would be far more likely to support this new, much smaller parcel tax if they're also able to see that there are other real reforms and other real efforts going on as well. So I think the fact that we really made the effort with the unions to get the cost-saving agreements, that we're doing other things internally to cut costs, I think that actually strengthens the argument for the parcel tax, because I think if you went to voters and said, we want you to solve 100% of the problem, they would be more likely to say no. Whereas if we say, we did A and B and C and D, and now we're asking the voters to also be part of this effort, I think that's a stronger argument.
Now, in terms of the revenue collection system of the city of Oakland, there was a little bit of a scuttlebutt at the council that I caught, and it was a manager who was implying that the older people who had been there didn't really train. What was your take on that? Because Councilmember Reed, I thought the council president did a great job of diffusing the issue.
Yes.
But was there some sort of cultural problem that we saw because you had people coming to council fighting for their jobs?
Yes.
It was a tearful episode to watch.
Very much so. I mean, it was very painful on an interpersonal
level. The situation
level.
that we're in.
Well, exactly. So the situation when you're making budget cuts, right?
Right.
That for anybody whose job might get cut, of course that's a horrible and painful situation. And I think we came out with a perfectly good outcome, which is we're going to have both types of tasks, the more computer-oriented tasks and the people who do more the on the phone and the in-person.
Do you think it spoke to management over there, though? Because it seems like there's a cultural problem that, as a person who worked for the city of Oakland, I've seen.
Yes.
But it's the first time I saw it play out in public. You know what I mean? Has anyone talked about looking at what to do about that?
Yes, people are talking about that.
Excellent.
And, personnel disputes we're not supposed to talk about the details of publicly,
sure.
but it was very clear.
Because that was brought out in public.
Yes, it was very clear after that there was an issue, and, people are internally resolving it, and those people are not losing their jobs. And it is being worked out internally through the administration, and they're not losing their jobs.
Okay, now, are we going to come back next year and have to deal with all this all over again? Where is the city financially? Is Russo correct that we're going to be, trashed by 2023, something like that? Only $400 million if we... What about that?
Well, no, we're not going to be back where we started next year because the labor agreements we just made roll into the future years. So the cost savings in the labor agreements aren't just for 1 year. They go on into the future.
So you're talking about structural change, essentially.
Exactly. So that piece...
Ignore that, please.
We're just having some background side effects for those of you watching.
Comic-Con preparation.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm going.
Awesome. So those cost savings that were made this year do continue into future years. So it's not like we're back at starting from scratch all over again. So we will start the next round with this piece already having been resolved. Now, we're also looking to improve some of our efficiencies with some of our systems. So, for example, with permitting, we're working to have more of the permits that people do with the city online instead of having to have them all processed, case by case on paper. So there's other things we're working to implement that would then save money the second year, third year, fourth year as we shift to some more cost-effective systems.
When do you think those will be able to be implemented so you can realize the desired results from those policy changes, those procedural changes too?
Well, several of them are in the works right now. The new residential parking permits being online has already started. So essentially we have a list of things that other cities already do online. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, this isn't like new ideas. It's not like this is, I'd love to say, oh yes, this was my idea. No, this is something that is normal, commonplace that other cities do, that they have all these different systems in a more easy online way, right? So with residential parking permits, that one we've gotten done. So now people can do that online. They don't have to come stand downtown and wait in a long line to do their residential parking permit. Now, a bunch of the stuff that Public Works does in terms of how they receive complaints about potholes and different things like that, that's moving to having a better online interface for that, and they've already started working on that. And then the big thing that's in the works that staff has already started to work on is with CETA, so building permits, business permits. So that the staff is actively working on. We don't have a final implementation date, but that's one of the things that's sort of on the checklist that they're working on.
And do you have a sense that where are we with the parking situation? Because I know that you and I have disagreed about that, but friendly so. But where are we with the parking situation, and will we have these continued high ticket prices and everything, or is that just a necessity because of where we're at, or just
Well, I think we really need to be, personally, I think we need to be moving away from ticketing primarily as a strategy and more toward sort of longer term, bigger picture strategies.
What?
So,
that's great. Wait,
yes.
You heard her say that, folks.
That's right.
Awesome.
So, for example, what some other cities...
I'm about to go into shock.
That's right.
No, sorry.
So what some other cities have started doing is having parking lots and parking garages where you get to park free for a certain amount of time if you're shopping in a local business, right? And so then you go and you get a validation and then you get to park for free. Those types of strategies require a little more advanced planning than a strategy just based on ticketing. But it's really the right way to go because then you really are supporting the economic growth of the businesses. Right, so in terms of how do you have a system where you're encouraging the customers and have some way of making sense of it all. And so the issue of having customer validation if they're shopping in a local business, I think is one of the things we need to be doing. I mean, in terms of things we haven't yet done, I think that would be a really good one.
Now,
and there have been little promos every once in a while, like around the holiday shopping season where they've done that. But I think to start looking at the lots and garages in our commercial areas and creating more systems like that, I think would be really helpful.
Now, shifting gears a little bit, going to, first of all, I'm just going to say it straight up. What's the situation with the city attorney now? Because when I talked to Russo, he said on camera that he felt the city electing to have a new city attorney make only $165,000 a year was a big mistake, and that's what a junior partner makes it Morris and Forrester. Why is it that if that is the case? Because I asked him if he left because his salary was going to be decreased. He said no, it was locked in. But what kind of city attorney are we going to see in the future? Will we have elected a city attorney?
Well, the issue about the pay for the city attorney, that's actually in the charter. Mm-hmm. And so...
That was his comment. He said they're going to refer to the formula of the charter.
Right.
But his comment is that the formula of the charter is not going to get you the city attorney you need.
So he's saying we should ignore the binding law of the city of Oakland because he thinks it would be a better idea to pay the person more than the law says, and it isn't.
Yeah, he's
and let's be clear,
that. He said that on camera.
This is not.
He said that on camera.
This is not an ordinance that the council adopted. This was a charter change on the ballot that was voted in by the voters, and in the charter change that the voters adopted.
The law, though, I gotta challenge you though.
Should we ignore the law? That's the binding charter of the city of Oakland?
Should the law change so we can get a better city attorney? I mean, look, he is right about that.
Well, it depends what you mean. He's right if what you mean is that partners at law firms are often paid more than that. If that's the question, that's true.
It's about getting the quality person you want to be city attorney.
But the assumption being that the quality people would be making the decision primarily based on the pay rate, and that I don't think that's true. I mean, let me be clear. I could be earning 3 times what I'm earning right now if I decided to work at a law firm, and I have a law degree. I graduated with honors from Stanford Law School. So the assumption that underlies that statement is that every person on earth in picking their job cares only about picking the highest paying job, and I could be working in a law firm for more, and I'm choosing to do this.
Well, my friend, it comes with a caveat.
Yeah.
You've got to run for office too,
Yes.
unless you're going to, right? So you're asking the person to run for office.
So are you saying I should be paid more?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the statement. But nonetheless,
I am the last person to take that away from anybody. But you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I do know that there is some group of people who might want the job and then might choose not to seek it if it's not paid more. But that's not 100% of the people. there are plenty of people who actually want to work in public service, who want to work in this beautiful, amazing, centrally located, vibrant city. And so there might be some candidates who would be dissuaded by the pay, but there's other excellent ones who wouldn't be.
Now, his other charge is that his claim is that other city attorneys around California make more. And therefore, even with what you said, it's still out of line. So the bottom line is, isn't there something we should do to make sure because you don't have, and this is me talking.
Oh yeah, sure.
This is me talking. Okay, you don't have a situation where Jane Williams was city attorney.
Yes.
She was appointed. Right?
Yes.
And she made something like $300,000 somewhere in there, right? Which, adjusted for inflation, considering what we're going through now, ain't bad.
Yep.
So basically, you're asking a new city attorney to, for all practical purposes, take a pay cut with the additional responsibility of having to run for re-election.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, here's the question.
Okay.
Who in the ballot measure?
This is good.
That created it?
Conversation. I like
The ballot measure that created that?
It's good television.
I seem to recall that John Russo endorsed that ballot measure.
I seem to recall that he did too.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that.
So he now says he wishes he had endorsed this sentence and this sentence, but not that sentence of it. I mean, it was a charter measure. It passed.
I'll ask him. Speaking for me, I think it should be redesigned. Right? I mean, but I'll turn right around and ask him, since you said that yesterday. He was candid on the camera about it, right?
Well, and I'm not saying that it isn't a legitimate question what the pay should be. I'm just saying when I took the vote I took, the charter language is what it is today. Now, whether there might be a future ballot measure that would change it, I mean, that's an open question. But we had to make a vote this month with the charter being what it is. And the charter has a formula for the city attorney pay that is based largely on comparing other cities. And so we adopted a number based on the current requirements of the charter.
Well, okay.
So
I
know it's an interesting question.
For that, yeah. But one thing I want to get out though is talking about you, and you ran for mayor.
Yes.
Arguably almost won.
Yes.
Arguably.
Yes.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next year's
it was a really good experience.
What did you learn from that, by the way?
Well, one of the things that was really interesting about it is to see how much what people said would happen was different from what did happen. Right? That was really interesting, that something could be a widespread belief held by many people who are very respected and could still turn out not to be the case. Right? So there was a lot of statements made about who was the inevitable person who was going to win. Yeah. Right. And to actually be in the campaign and be seeing what was happening over time and seeing what people said would happen and then what did happen, I think it was really interesting. And I also
I want to congratulate you for supporting an open process.
Thank you.
So I haven't forgot that Sierra Club issue. That was tremendous on your part.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think to Mayor Kwan's credit, she worked really, really hard. I mean, she knocked on all the doors. Yeah. She put in the time and effort, and she is now, as mayor,
How
putting
are you
in the
two
time
getting
and
along?
effort.
Because during that silly his expression said it, right?
We get along great.
Yeah.
No, we are getting along fine, and part of why we're getting along fine?
Expression referring to last year.
Yeah.
That was like...
Well, campaign season is season is always its own special thing, but we are getting along fine.
That was fun, though.
It was fun. And watching the candidate who people said was the front runner to then not show up at debates, or then when he did show up to not want to say anything. I mean, that was really an interesting experience, and to see how Oakland voters responded to that. And part of it reinforced something that I already believed about Oakland voters, but we got to see it, which is they really care about a level of engagement. More so than they care about whether you're part of this or that old boys network or other things that people might think people would care about.
Oh, by the way, how much time do we have for you, by the way?
What time is it? Okay, so do a few more minutes.
Okay, no, I've got all the time in the world.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. So I'm just asking for you.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Now, also.
So the voters really care about a level of engagement, and I think some people underestimated how much the voters of Oakland care about that, and care about feeling that you're really present and you really care and want to be doing the job.
On the matter of voters of Oakland, the police.
Yes.
we are bringing back 22 officers.
Correct. I pushed for more.
Well, you did.
This was a compromise that we ended up by. I was originally pushing for 44.
And the stickler was the attrition rate issue, right? Mm-hmm. What say you about that? I mean, how can we really get a handle on the attrition rate? When I read an OPOA blog that stated that more police were actually leaving Oakland.
Yes.
Which actually favors a higher attrition rate.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, that's in fact exactly why I was pushing for a higher number. I mean, I'm glad we're rehiring the 22, so that's happening now. And I'll continue to work with the mayor and with my colleagues and the chief of police on how we further expand on that. But I was pushing for hiring more right now, specifically because of the issue of the attrition rate.
Right.
So in other words, because
that was a fascinating discussion.
Yeah, because we have a significant number who are leaving, both retirements and people who are leaving for reasons other than retirement. I felt that it was important to rehire a larger number now in order to deal with the reality of that attrition rate. Now, still, you know, the number we're getting now is better than not, but I'm going to continue to work on that. And the most surreal thing to me about that whole debate is if you think about the history of the way people have talked politically about the police issue, that Nancy Nadell has been stereotyped as someone who's anti-police. Right. During the mayor's race, Parada's supporters sent out mailings with lies in them, attacking me and saying I was anti-police, and in fact specifically saying that I was in favor of laying off police, even after I had actually voted in public to not lay them off, and I made clear that my position was that we should not lay them off. Right. They still use that as a lie in attack piece. Oh, and here it is. Here's that. Here's the attack piece that was sent out. You can even keep that.
Thank you.
Of course, it was full color, but this is a copy. This is the attack piece that had been sent out a year ago during the mayor's race, and
I remember both of these too.
That's right. Yeah. And the attack piece, it accuses me and Pat Kernahan and Desley Brooks and Jean Kwan of laying off police.
Jeez. Hey, that's a good voting block, though.
Yeah, and what's remarkable about this, both myself and Councilmember Brooks had actually voted no on that motion last year. And that was a public vote at a public meeting. So the people who put out this mailer
political spin
knew what they were doing was a lie. And it wasn't just spin-like opinion, because this was an actual vote. We had actually voted no, don't lay them off.
Can they be fined for that, though? For lying in the campaign?
Virtually impossible to get someone in trouble for lying about a candidate, because when you're a candidate, lies about you are held to a lower standard because you're considered a public official. And so it's actually a weaker standard when people lie about you. One of the odd side effects of this...
That should be changed. I mean, particularly false advertising laws, you know?
Yep.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
But in any case, so what I think is really funny, given that political history, is that then here this year we had me, Libby Schaff, right, who is new onto the council, and Pat Kernahan, who's one of the people who was attacking this piece, and Nancy Nadell pushing to hire more police.
That's right. Hey, how are you getting along with Libby, by the way?
Great. And it's fun having her there. I like working with her.
You know, you and Libby, I think, are the most wonkish of our council members, with the exception of Desley. Desley just whip her like smart,
yes,
right?
Brilliant,
right.
Yeah.
How has that changed how the council views or how the council makes decisions? What I mean by that, and I don't mean to imply that, what I mean by that is technically, do you find yourselves in meetings longer crunching numbers in a different way? Do the deliberations change? I don't mean this as a negative.
Yes.
I think it's a
no,
positive,
it's a great thing. So, for example, there's a ballot measure that Libby Schaff's working on that I'm supporting and helping with to fix the PFERS system, which is the police and fire retirement system. Right. It's the old retirement system that Oakland had. It's no longer what people go into, but it still has many, many people in it as the former retirement system. And there have been questions for years about how that fund is calculated and what the dates are in terms of what the dates are for funding it. And so now with Libby there, she has been working on, and I've also been working on with her, to really dig into the numbers, the dates, the methods of actuarially accounting for that obligation.
Right.
And so there's going to be a ballot measure to improve it. And so that's part of the outcome from having that sort of, let's dig into the data.
But I gotta ask another question on that. Does that mean that because of the way you guys think, we will have over time a different type of city government? And I mean,
well, I sure hope so.
Right, and I mean,
and not just to say it's only me and her. We're not. It's not like we're the only people working on that. But
it is a cultural change.
But the need for focusing on digging into the actual data, right? Making decisions based on really looking at the numbers, when it's something that is numbers. Not all decisions have numbers, but when you're talking about, by what year you have to fund what amount of a pension system, that's math. That's a math question, right?
As we get a better staff that's really on its toes, because it knows that you can't be snowed by them.
Well, that's sure the point.
That's what I'm getting.
Yes.
And then also it's more like you have two managers rather than, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think it's a fascinating development. Now, getting to the city itself, first of all, congratulations on the Broadway shuttle. Talk about that.
Yes. So we have in Oakland now this wonderful free green Broadway transit shuttle, and we give you the little brochure you can see, and of course, maybe we'll take some video. Well, you have some video of the bus itself.
Yeah, actually I do. Yeah.
And this is a project. I'm so proud of us for doing this project. It was something I've been involved in from the beginning.
Give my voters a history. Give my viewers.
That's right.
I'm not ready for office.
You're not ready for office?
No.
Are you running for office, Eddie? Wait, turn the camera.
No.
Are you running for office, Eddie?
I'm not running for any office.
And what's your favorite,
not even dog catcher.
favorite food?
Deep dish pizza.
Nice. So essentially,
with tomatoes.
We launched as a joint project of the City of Oakland and AC Transit, also with the support of the Business Improvement Districts, the Air Quality Board. We launched this free green transit shuttle that goes up and down Broadway. It connects Jack London Square and Uptown and the growing nightlife and restaurants. Lets people get around for free.
I wanted to bring around the lake here.
Awesome. We'll make sure we put that in next. But
actually, I estimated the cost for that. But go ahead. Sorry.
Well, what I love about this is the last time we talked about it, the shuttle had already launched, but what we were talking about was we needed to go later. Right.
Yeah,
we were driving down Broadway and we took a video of a shuttle going by. That's right. And one of the things we talked about then is that, well, this is great, but the next step is we needed to run later at night, because the nightlife is really growing and we want to make sure we're encouraging and supporting that. And so now it's so great we get to announce that a week ago we launched later at night, and now the Broadway shuttle does serve the nightlife, goes till 1 in.the.morning, has that connection.
And what's great is that you don't have to worry as much about the police, the checkpoints, and all that jazz, right? That's a wonderful development.
Oh, absolutely. No, if you're going out drinking, we definitely want you taking the shuttle rather than driving. It's also just a wonderful way for people who might be going, to a restaurant on one part of Broadway, and then they might want to go to a show that's a few, more blocks up. Then they might feel like walking, and there's the shuttle is there, and it's really helping our local businesses. And so it's really nice to have this combination of it's a community amenity and it's supporting the economic growth, which frankly to me is a lot of how I look at where we need to go from here, which is we need to be doing things that improve the quality of life in the community and foster economic growth, because if we're not developing more jobs in our community, then a lot of the other things we work on will be hindered, because we need that economic opportunity.
Where are we in job growth from your estimation? How are we doing?
Well, we're working on a couple of really big, important job growth projects right now. One is the Army base, which should be thousands of new jobs. And that project, the council has already approved that project. Now that project is in process to actually happen. Very excited about that. And then there's another one coming down the line that I'm very excited about, is the Coliseum area, to rebuild the whole area around the Coliseum so that we'd have shops, bars, restaurants, hotels, housing in the surrounding area as well. But in terms of right where people come to a game or a concert, and then they come out and they're like, there's nothing here.
Was that the Bob Leslie proposal at first, or is that because Bob brought that to the mayor's task force when I was on it, when Dellums was mayor.
That's right. So now Larry Reed and I are working on it.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
I'm very happy that we're working together on it. We haven't talked since he became council president, so pleased with that. Congratulations to Larry Reed, who's now our council president.
Now, does part of what you do, is that going to touch on also dealing with the Oakland County Coliseum?
Exactly.
Authority?
Exactly. So
Does that mean restructure the authority?
So the idea is to do a replan of that whole Coliseum area. So you've got the BART station on one side, right? The freeway on the other, and in between we have huge amounts of land. The land is already in public hands, so there's no land dispute. And it's in a central location. It's got BART access and freeway, and it's got redevelopment and
for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got the freeway access, the BART, the Amtrak Capital Corridor. It's a perfect place to have a real entertainment and mixed-use destination hub where you could have like LA Live.
Right.
So you'd have, when people come for a game, they could actually spend some money in some local businesses.
How are you developing it? Because when I brought the Super Bowl here, the issue that I found and the problem that I had, well, I tried to bring the Super Bowl here. We lost to Jacksonville.
Well, once we rebuild this, we'll get the Super Bowl.
Well, here's the problem, though. If you just build it without thinking about Super Bowl requirements, you make a big mistake.
No way we build this without Super Bowl requirements. It needs to be built to. I absolutely know what you're talking about. It needs to be built to Super Bowl standards and World Cup soccer standards.
What do I mean by that?
And the Raiders have schematic diagrams and specs for that.
Wrong.
And you have to have the hotel access, and you have to have the
You're
number.
You're cherry picking, Councilmember, but let me help you.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Okay. All right.
What else do you need?
The basic problem that we had is that the NFL has 3 separate types of hotel requirements for networks that add up to 600 rooms. The bottom line is that because we didn't have the inventory, we lost them to San Francisco. So when I'm asking you to
it's the hotel inventory.
Right. What I'm asking you to do is when you guys do this stuff, stop doing it in a vacuum. Because guys like me, we were there, but I got the mayor about this. I said, hey, you have people out here, me, George Vukasin, no one calls on us for advice at all. And what I'm saying is that in that case, when you build it, make sure that you're not turning around as we did with the Coliseum in '97 when I said to Nate Miley, we're going to have to upgrade it again because we just spent $200 million on it. Yeah. And we're not in a situation where we have to upgrade it again.
Exactly.
Right? That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
a great development. But what's happening is that these things are done in like this vacuum.
Well, no, actually, the plan does have, in fact, more than that number of hotel rooms in it. So it absolutely would have. And the draft design has actually multiple hotels, so that you can have hotels at different price points in the complex.
Excellent.
And so that's absolutely
what about ballroom size?
Part of the intended vision.
Ballroom size.
Yes.
Call me.
Okay.
I'm serious.
And get the specs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Call me.
Great.
Yeah, I'm happy to help you.
No, we'll definitely get that.
Volunteer.
Because the idea being we have this incredible asset.
Yeah.
Right? We've got the land, we've got the sports venue, but the sports venue needs to be rebuilt.
Absolutely.
And if we only rebuilt the sports venue but didn't build anything around it, that won't generate economic opportunity for Oakland businesses and for Oakland jobs.
So we can build a new
So we need a new stadium. Yes, we can build a new stadium with the surrounding amenities, because the surrounding amenities draws more customers to the stadium because it's more pleasant to go to, but that's also where you get the sales tax revenue, the jobs, the other economic opportunity for businesses.
Sure.
So you need the new stadium, but you need the new stadium with the hotels, the restaurants, the shops and the bars, and the other build out. And luckily, I mean, we have something almost nobody has. We have enough land to build this all that's already publicly owned, and we already have a transit hub. Yeah. So it's the perfect site to build this, and really excited to be working on that.
Yeah,
and so those, obviously there's lots of smaller projects all over the city we're working on, to attract businesses to different vacant sites. But the Coliseum one, in terms of an example of something really big with a lot of jobs, is one.
Now, getting to you, what is your wish list? You're running for re-election, obviously, yes? But that's a year's out. It's a year out.
Right, yeah. I'm not working on that today.
I got you.
Exactly.
But I'm trying to get as much as I can.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, I don't know how much time, how often do I get this chance?
Exactly. No, we'll do another one of these.
Okay, cool. Sounds great.
Absolutely.
What is your wish list for the coming, well into, September when we start up again? What do you want to see done in the city for the next year? You have to prioritize.
Absolutely.
What's number one?
Well, okay, so I'll tell you my wish list, which might not be the same for all of my colleagues. But for me, things that I think are priority, to move forward with these specific economic development projects, as well as some of the other smaller ones, so that we're really building the economy, building jobs, building opportunities for businesses in Oakland to grow. Two, to fix code enforcement, the whole blight inspection and prospective liens issue. So for those who maybe haven't already read up on it, there has been accusations made about improper behavior by code enforcement inspectors and putting liens on properties inappropriately and otherwise behaving inappropriately toward members of the public. So get that completely cleaned up. New policies, including I'm going to be pushing for a new policy to end completely the use of what they call prospective liens, which is essentially the damage of a prospective lien is if you have a homeowner who hasn't fixed up their property sufficiently. If you put a lien on that property, then that homeowner can't get a home improvement loan and can't fix up their property. And then on top of that, there's been allegations that they've been used, in an inappropriate way. So for those two reasons, let's just stop doing that. And then on top of that, we need a code of conduct for how code enforcement should be done, clear standards for when, and we need to do a much better job of going after the bank-owned foreclosed blight, which is a devastating problem in Oakland. We have got 3,000 properties in Oakland today in some stage of foreclosure. That means we're ending up having hundreds of homes that are sitting empty, and they're owned by some investment conglomerate or some weird merged bank investment firm where we can't even track down the person who's actually responsible, and then they're not upkeeping the property, and it sits empty and it becomes a crime magnet. And so not only is it...
That is right. That's a major problem, and something even to the point of people leaving couches.
Yes. On the abandoned properties, and then those become...
Even just out in the middle of the street here.
Well, that too.
I've taken pictures of that.
Oh, absolutely.
And one blogger, George King, said, "Oh, what's wrong with that?"
Yep.
There's a lot wrong with it. You don't want your city to,
Exactly.
Oh,
no, so, and then having those properties in a neighborhood just destroys the quality of life in the neighborhood, because when you live next to one of these abandoned properties, really unpleasant, and you start having squatters and crime that take place at them, and the pipes being stolen out of the houses. I mean, the level of problems that's causing is significant. So we want to improve our enforcement in those situations, and we want to work better and a more collaborative way with our residents who are trying to fix up their homes and make sure we're not putting a lien on their property, then they can't get the loan, then they can't fix up their home, and then we yell at them for having not done the very thing that the city's action was what got in the way of them doing it.
What's the timetable for implementation of this? I mean, with a political capitalist.
They're planning to bring us the first report in September. In response to the grand jury. But I'm also, in the meantime, so between now and September, I'll be writing up some of these policy proposals into a more formal way, such as, for example, an official policy to stop doing prospective.
All right, now, so I think about 40 minutes.
Yeah,
now,
we should probably run in a minute.
Definitely.
But it's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. How can people contact you? Because you're essentially the second mayor of Oakland. You're at large, which means you have the whole city.
That's right.
How can people contact you?
510-238-7008. That's our office at City Hall, or they can email atlarge@oaklandnet.com.
Excellent. This is a beautiful card. Great to see you.
Great to see you too.
All right.